Let me welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Beth Walizer, Professor of Teacher Education. Now let me see, you've won, I know you've won the Pilot Award. What other awards have you won? And what other, we know that you're distinguished, everyone loves you, but, and I think every year that we ask for nominations for the Pilot Award, you're always one of those people who gets nominated every year. So clearly your students love you and think that you're amazing. But are there other awards that I'm missing? You won the Navigator too, right?
Correct.
For advising.
Thank you, Charlene, for inviting me. It is a pleasure, and I am so excited to see all these faces. I'm scanning through these pages of pictures that I'm seeing on my screen, and the first thing I'm going to say is Yippy Skippy to all of you. I'm just so excited, and if you've been in my class, you know what that means. So it's a Yippy Skippy moment for me to be here to visit with you. Yes, I did win the Pilot Award and the Navigator Award, both in the same year in 2008. And I think I was the first at the history of Fort Hays and the only who have won both awards that same year. So I must have really been doing something good that year, so I was moving around. So I did win those. I was the icon of, somebody is trying to call me, so we better, I don't know who that was. I did win the Icon of Education Award a few years ago in Kansas City, and that was a pretty cool award, along with some other college awards and nominations that I've had. So those are wonderful honors that I've had as a professional educator. And again, I am just so excited to see everyone, and hello.
Well, before we get to questions about life as an educator these days, tell us a little bit about your Fort Hays story. We know that you're a graduate of Fort Hays and you've chosen to pursue your career here. So can you tell us a little bit about that background?
Absolutely, I would love to. I think I've always known that I wanted to be a teacher ever since first grade with Mrs. Lally that I had. And I graduated here from Russell High School, went off to college, and my dad was really, came from a very low SES, and he wanted to make sure that I had an education. And he thought that probably I would be a wonderful accountant, being a female, that would be a good job for me. And I was really good in math. And so I went off to college and I got into some business classes because of my good grades. Except when I went into one of the classes, it just felt so cold and not me that I walked across campus and said, I have to change my major to teacher education. And then I called my dad. It wasn't a very good conversation, but it's who I am and what I really want to be. I just have a passion for teaching. So I went ahead, my advisor was Dr. Powers, and we were in the old Rarick Hall that year that I first came to Fort Hays. It was torn down and we had all of our teacher education classes over in Cunningham Hall. And so that's where I started to learn to be flexible, because in education, you just never know what's going to be thrown at you. And once they throw it to you, you get those lemons and you make it into lemonade. I graduated from Fort Hays in '79 with my bachelor's degree in elementary education, came back to Russell, Kansas, where I taught, well, I really finished in December, and I did some substituting jobs, long-term subs in a third grade class, and then in a social studies, sixth grade. That was not me, but I was more of the elementary sort of a person. Taught first grade for many, many years. And it was just like, I need something more. And so I heard about looping. And so I decided to loop from first to second grade. And I really liked looping. It was wonderful for the children and for me, because I could see that I could move those children from first grade into second grade. And a whole 9 weeks, we were ahead because I knew where the children were. And that was wonderful. I had a lot of student teachers. As a matter of fact, Judy Nixon came over one time and brought her whole class. And then Sandra Teese came and said, I'm going to tell our chair about you because I think you need to be at the college level. Dr. Newton came then to observe me when he was here. And then that summer, Dr. Newton said, hey, could you do a summer class for us? And it was at that time called the Correction of Reading Disabilities. Now we call it Literacy Assessment and Interventions. And so I said, sure, I'd love to. So that summer I started as an adjunct, and I drove over to Fort Hays and taught that Corrections of Reading Disabilities. And Dr. Newton said, well, what if you taught nights for us? And I said, well, sure, I'd like to do that. So I taught first grade, and I was coming to Hays and was teaching like a Monday, Wednesday night. And he mentioned, he said, well, you know, we have a teacher that's going to be phasing out here, an instructor, and, you know, maybe you'd like to start your doctorate. And so I said, well, okay, because I always like new challenges. And so on the nights that I wasn't teaching at Fort Hays, like Monday and Wednesday, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was driving to K-State taking night classes. So I taught first grade or second grade, and then was over at Hays 2 nights a week, K-State 2 nights a week, and got my doctorate. Donna Ortiz retired, and I stepped in as an instructor then, finished my PhD in October of 2004, and went on tenure track in 2005. Then the Pilot Award, Navigator Award came in 2008 because I was working very hard, wanted to make sure that I was tenured and promoted. I see Dr. Slattery's on, and I want to give him a shout out and a special thank you, because he was a great mentor to help me get through that tenure and promotion process, along with Dr. Taggart when she was here. And this is what you need to do: present, publish, do all of this. And so I just started moving up. When I was teaching at Fort Hays in 2004, 2005, the online started coming to play. Whoops, did I just lose you? Nope, okay. Something just popped up on my screen, I guess. And they said, what do you think about teaching online classes? And I said, well, I don't know. Teacher education is a pretty touchy-feely sort of a thing. You know, you have to see the people, and they've got to at least hear me. Well, how about if we let you work with, it was CTELT at the time, and you can do some podcasts. So I said, okay. So I would teach live, and I would carry around an iPod, and I would podcast, and I would put them up, upload them for the students to listen to. And that's how online teaching began in our department. So I was telling these people, this is really great. So I had one on campus and one virtual. And then I said, but you know what? It's not enough. What else do you have? So I have been through many things like Camtasia, Illuminate, Adobe Connect, and then we're Blackboard and Blackboard Ultra. And I now have usually one on-campus section and 3 or 4 virtual sections of my literacy methods class, which I just love. So that's a little bit about me.
So is it okay if we mention, you know, you talked about having lemons and turning them into lemonade. Is it okay if we mention the lemon that turned into lemonade in terms of where you pursued your bachelor's degree?
Okay, so
where you started?
Well, I did start at Emporia State University, and I was there for a year. My parents thought it would be a good idea if I spread my wings a little bit. And so they really guided me to Emporia. My husband and I were dating at the time, and I don't think he was real excited that I was going down there, but I was there for about a year and came back, and he really didn't propose. So I thought, well, I'm going back to see what else. So I was there for about that first week, and he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going back to school. And he said, well, I think maybe we should get married. I said, well, wish you would have said something earlier. And so that's about the time that I switched my major and thought, nope. And I finished another semester. I had, because I'd already paid for it. And then I said, I'm coming home. And so the stipulation at the time is, yes, I could get married, but I had to finish my degree. And so we got married and I drove back and forth to Hayes. I did finish my degree in 3.5 years, even with the transfer from Emporia to Fort Hayes. Dr. Powers was wonderful in working with me, and he observed me for my student teaching, which I did right here in Russell, and it was just a wonderful journey. It's been great. I love Fort Hayes because when and maybe Mike Slattery knows this, so I don't know who else is in here because I tell this. When I first got the position and came as an instructor, it felt like home. And as I drove from Russell on Old 40 to Fort Hayes, it felt like Fort Hayes was the pulse of the community, and it just would draw me in. It just felt like the heartbeat, and it just felt like home and that I was in the right place.
Well, clearly, I think it's been proven that you are in the right place, and we're very excited that you've been here all these years.
Thank you.
So this is an interesting time in education, especially for all of those students that you've taught previously. What are you hearing from your students about the transition from being, regular on-campus classes to, the stay-at-home orders and all of that? Not just from your current students, but also from those who are now teachers. Can you give us their perspective?
Yeah, so that was really kind of interesting. This spring, we were trying to upload all the content so that our interns could go out then and do their internships. So those of you that are students probably remember my final lecture with 3 letters from Teddy, and the lecture that you either laugh or cry or both. And I had just finished that, and I know that the students were kind of anxious because they knew that they were going to be going home for spring break and having to move out. In talking with those teachers who are out in the field currently, I worked with them, and it was wonderful that I was also teaching a graduate level MSc courses, and I visited with those that I had in the fall who had some videos of them. My interns were really a little bit anxious about not having students live to teach. And really that was lemons into lemonade. We let them observe those MSc students who had some recordings on how they were teaching, and then also let them kind of work with anyone who are out in the field to get them prepared for the new type of teaching that they were doing online. Those teachers who went through our program, and especially the virtual ones, kind of, I think, were used to that virtual environment. If they were on campus, it takes a little bit to get into the swing of things, but I was just so amazed at all the resources. I did have people contact me. We had always done a blog in all of my literacy methods courses, which I shared those blogs with those teachers so that they could have some great online resources that my previous candidates had researched and taken a look at and wrote a description out. And so they have done an amazing job of working with the children, developing units, getting them prepared. Mr. Andrew Dempewolf is administrator here in Russell, where I live. He was also a former student. I have visited with him quite frequently. He is also an adjunct for one of my internships. And so between the two, Mr. Dempewolf and I, and talking, we could kind of get our interns prepared and what they had to do. And also those interns could help share with teachers. And so I think it really was a great partnership. I know that this year, I just visited with Andrew, and they're talking about what the fall looks like. And I saw that on, I think, Hayes Post, where USD 489 and all of Ellis County teachers are getting together and they're discussing what it's going to look like. I know that our interns that are going to be coming into the internships for the first time in the literacy methods are concerned, and even those that are going to be doing internships for mathematics and science, what's it going to look like? Just so that they know, we are having meetings coming up this Wednesday. We will find partners. They will have an opportunity to work with those teachers as mentors to help them, and they can help them with lessons that they present, preparing virtual lessons, and just kind of working through. I think it will prepare them better than those who were out in the spring where they just had to jump right into online teaching. So I think that they will have an opportunity to work with those online classes, and it's going to make them a better teacher. And I see that some of you are nodding. And I know those first year teachers that just jumped into it, they've just done an amazing job. And I'm glad that they reached out for resources from us. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe some of other questions.
So reminder to everyone, if you have questions, please chat them to us and we will get them answered by Dr. Walizer. But before we get to any of those questions, I have a question that I want to ask you.
Okay.
Anyone who knows anything about you knows that Yippy Skippy is a thing.
Yep.
But, you know, I've never had the privilege of being in one of your classes. So can you explain what Yippy Skippy is all about for those of us who don't know?
Absolutely. So I've got to take you back to a conference that I went to, because always you can learn more. I can still learn more. You just can't learn enough. And I always tell my interns or student teachers when I have them, or now my teachers, go to professional development meetings. Listen closely, take at least one thing from the meeting, at least one, and try it. If it doesn't work, you can go back. So I was at a professional meeting when this presenter jumped up on a chair and yelled, "Yippee Skippy," for whatever, whatever it was. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to try that. So I was teaching first grade at the time. And, oh, I see some children coming in. That's great. So if a child does something exceptionally well, I would jump up on the chair and go, "Yippee Skippy" for Billy Bob, because he just did something well. And we would all give some type of a cheer, whether it was a silent cheer or whatever cheer it was. And it worked well. I had a teacher who was cooperating teacher at Russell. She was also teaching first grade, and she could not give a Yippee Skippy, but she would come to my room and said, "I'm going to watch your class. Well, could you go over and give somebody a Yippee Skippy?" Which was okay, but it really should come from the teacher. And so I thought, when I started teaching my literacy methods class, reading and language arts, for some of those of you who first took my classes, I jumped up on the chair and gave them a Yippee Skippy, because they could do the vowel code rap. That's usually when I give the Yippee Skippy. When I jumped up on the chair and gave the Yippee Skippy, one of the students in my class rolled their eyes like Junie B. Jones does, if you know that, Junie B., and rolled their eyes. And I thought, oh, that was interesting. Well, of course, the next semester, because I wasn't teaching all these sections of reading and language arts, I taught the literacy methods, reading and language arts, and then I taught the correction of reading disabilities, the literacy assessment. She happened to be in that next class. That's where you tutor children, 2 to 5 children, and we were going to Washington Elementary. And she was having a difficult time with one of the students that I had given her. And I knew that it was going to be difficult. And so she came to ask for help. And I said, you know what? If this child does something, you just let me know. And so she said, okay. And I went over and I talked to this child, and I'm going to say Billy Bob. And I said, well, Billy Bob, you let me know when you finish that. I want to see what you can do. And when you finish that, you just let me know. So he came and he let me know that he was finished. And so we were in the gymnasium at Washington Elementary with probably 20 tables of one candidate and 4 children that they were tutoring, and they all had their little privacy boards up. And I jumped up on the chair and I yelled, "Yippy Skippy for Billy Bob. He just did something well." Now, Billy Bob was a 5th grader. His little kindergarten sister jumped up out of her chair, ran across the gym, gave him a big hug. Everyone did a cheer. And Billy Bob looked at me and he said, "When can I have another one of those things?" I said, "You know what? I'm not going to give you another one. But if you do another one and your teacher thinks you deserve it, she can give you a Yippy Skippy." Of course, the next day she was in my office and she let me know, "I am so sorry for rolling my eyes," because she knew that, what is this going to do? So what I'm saying is, give kudos where we need to, whether it's the Yippy Skippy, whether it's the administrator on the roof of the building with a Superman cape, or the coach that shaves the head, whatever it is that just will really hook a child or get them excited about learning, that would be just really awesome. And I see Malia's there with the son, and I'm going to give you a Yippy Skippy for being there with your mom. I'm so glad to see you. So I hope that explained my Yippy Skippies.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great story. And I kind of am hoping I'll get a Yippy Skippy before the end of the day here. I don't know. I'm just feeling like I need a Yippy Skippy now or something.
I think the best Yippy Skippy I got was at graduation one year when the students had Yippy Skippy on their mortarboards.
Oh, that's great.
And it was the coolest thing.
That's great.
So
we have someone who I believe is a former virtual student of yours who has written in.
Okay.
So I try to summarize these. I don't think I can summarize this one, so I'm just going to read what she wrote. Her name's Priya Getzi.
Okay.
And she said, "We're all learning every day how to be the best educators we can from a distance during this pandemic. Is there anything in particular that you've learned about being a teacher right now that you wish you could tell your former FHSU education students and current and other current teachers about?" And then she says, "Dr. Walizer was amazing at making connections with her virtual students as well as in-person students. How do you translate your ability to connect with students through the virtual format? I'm curious, I'm a special educator of students with significant communication disabilities and behavior disabilities. So what are some of the basic traits to exhibit through virtual teaching to continue connecting and relationship building with students that you use?"
Tria, hello. I see you up there in the corner. Yeah, good to see you. Wow. That is really hard. And I think maybe it's how I probably felt when they first told me, "You've got a podcast." And it's just jumping in and getting your feet wet, and trying something. And if it doesn't work, try something different. And I think the biggest thing is making that virtual student feel a part of what you're doing. That was the hardest part. I think the best times was when I was doing these virtual teachings. The on-campus class started at 8 o'clock. Please join me at 8 o'clock if you can. If you can't, I'm going to record it. And when I would call on the virtual students, just like I was calling on the on-campus students, I wanted them to feel as much a part of it as the on-campus. I wanted them to have that experience. Like I said, education is such a touchy-feely, and as I'm looking here at you and seeing you nod, I want to bring you in and make sure that you're getting this and feeling that exact same experience. This was really new for many virtual students, because before, a virtual class was more like read the chapter, take a test, do a blog, and it was kind of a shock, I think, for my virtual candidates that you either joined me or you had to watch those hour and 20 minutes videos 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because I know that was probably like, oh my gosh, I'm not used to this. Where's this time? But that's what a college student does. And I want you to feel it. And I want you to get as much out of this education as you can. And we start at 8 and we go till 9:20 because that's when the class is over. And you get every penny of your time there because the education is expensive and I want you to get every bit of it. And you can never take it, they can never take that education away from you. And so I think that's so important. But to work with those students and finding how each student learns, and especially through this virtual world, I wish I could just come through that screen to help you and see. And it's, fine tuning that. How can I help? Always being available, getting up and grading and checking things early and making sure if anybody has questions, being able to contact me, Zoom me, we used to Skype whenever, maybe you Skyped, I don't remember, just being available. So it's a lot of energy, a lot of searching for different resources, getting maybe a community of learners so that you can help each other. I think maybe, with our candidates coming in as interns and helping, rely on those interns to see what they've learned, if they can help you, and just what have you been learning new lately that you can bring to the table, kind of rely on them, be a partner with them. I always sign my emails, your partner in education. Even though I have the PhD, like I said, I'm always learning, and I can learn from you just as much as you can learn from me. And maybe those interns can bring in something. Let them teach a lesson virtually. Let them record themselves. Let them feel what that's like. I just would like to see that. Does that help answer your question, or am I way off?
All right, she gave you a thumbs up, so I think we're
Okay.
good. All right, so we have a question here about student teaching for the fall. Do we know what those plans look like for students?
So right now, we are meeting with all of the methods teachers about the internships. And I know schools are just now meeting. We haven't really heard anything, from the state where that's going and what's going on there. We're just kind of on, preparation plans. I'm talking to administrators all over, and sorry, my clock's ringing here in the background. It's about 15 minutes off. But we're hearing from administrators that they have like 8 different types of plans. I'm glancing over here and someone said, are you and your husband still raising and training dogs? And the answer is yes. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because many of the people that are at these dog trials, that hunt tests that we're at, they are in education, and I've said, what are you doing? How is it going to look for you? And they're all saying the same. We have all different types of plans of what we're going to do, but just know that we are working and we will communicate everything that we're doing. As we place the interns and student teachers in classrooms, it's going to be like just being there face to face. Whatever they want us to do, maybe they're going to be face to face for a while and then transition back to online, however it's going to look, but we'll just be guests in their classroom and help as much as we can and learn and take as much as we can from those mentor teachers that we're going to be with.
Very good. Another question that we have is deals with broadband and the access to broadband, especially in rural areas. Is that an issue for some of these students? Are you hearing anything about that? And also, how can parents be helpful for students who, if we have schools that are going back, at some point this year to being at home, what can parents be doing to support, their students' education when they don't have that face-to-face interaction with teachers?
Right. So being a member here in Russell community, I'm always watching the board meetings, and they've been virtual. And so I've been joining them. I know that here in Russell, if a student didn't have the technology, we got them the technology. Next Tech has been very good at providing internet connection for those children who didn't have it. I know it's difficult for some that don't have that are out in the country where they've had to come into town. And I know that they've said that they have came into town and used the internet, whether it be at the library or at one of the businesses in Russell that has that internet connection. They've been very good about that. My daughter has 2 boys, so our grandson, she's been working with them, and I've been listening to what they have been doing as parents. The parents have stepped up. It's just been amazing. And I have just been excited to hear about that. But for the most part, I'm hearing that parents have been wonderful, that they have done what the teachers have asked. Some of them are having a little bit of trouble, I think, with the new math standards. And I think some of you are smiling about that and doing math, how they were probably originally taught and now how the new math is. And like, hey, I've got to teach you the way I know it. So that you may have a challenge, those of you who are teaching math, to get them to those new math standards again and what you're doing there. But I have books that I'm sharing with teachers, whatever. I think that people have really done a good job of coming to the plate and helping out. And I just cannot imagine being a mother with a job and then having to teach my children at home and keep everything going. What a challenging roles that they have been put in. So that's just been amazing. So I hope that answered your question. So kudos to all of you that are out there teaching. I am just so proud of you. You've just done a wonderful job in such a short time. I mean, it takes us like months to prepare an online course, and you were given like a week to get ready and put everything up and share all that information out with children. And kudos to you. You have taken those lemons and made lemonade. So that's a Yippy Skippy.
We'll take it. So that question about the dogs wasn't just like from anyone. That was from Mike Slattery.
Oh, Mike, I'm having a blast. We just have a new puppy, a new black lab. We have named her Academies. That's the Retriever Academy is who trains our dog. So we use Academies. Pretty Woman's, that's after the Pretty Woman song. Midnight, which is after her mother. Magic, which is after her dad. So it's Pretty Woman's Midnight Magic, and her call name, and if you know Pretty Woman, Roy Orbison always says Mercy. So Mercy is our new 20-month-old pup, and this last weekend she just got her AKC Senior Hunter title. We're so proud of her, so that's pretty exciting. We do have another one. Her name is, if you heard the song, Moni Moni. Her name is Moni, and she is Academy Shoot 'em Down, Turn Around. Come on, Moni. And so we have Moni, and she's running for us. We did lose our good dog, Toots. She was a Grand Hunting Retriever, Master National Hunter, Hall of Fame dog. So she was quite a loss, but we're enjoying our new pups. And then I have some arm candy, they called her, a little Jack Russell named Madeline. Madeline May or Madeline May not. So yeah, loving my pups.
And okay, raise your hands if you knew that she did this. Did anyone else know that maybe former students, but I had no idea that you raised dogs too. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I handle them at these hunt tests. It's great fun.
Oh, wow. So I believe that that's all the questions that we have chatted to us. Does anyone else out there have a question for Dr. Walizer? I am not seeing anyone.
I'm telling you, it is so nice to see these faces. I am just so excited to see you all. I really thank you for joining. And Charlene, I'm going to give you a Yippy Skippy because you do a lot of work as a Yippy Skippy for Charlene for organizing all of these Tiger Tuesdays. And I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Although it's not just me doing that, we certainly have the team in the Robin Center. I think Megan's on the call with us. Trent helps getting all the communications out. So it's a team effort. It's not just me, but thank you all.
And I see Mrs. Fenwick in there. Hello. I'm seeing all these people. Yay. The Young Readers Conference. I have to give a shout out about that. We have to postpone that, but we are rescheduling our same authors for 2022. So please mark your calendars, Young Readers Conference, bring your children. It's going to be listen to your heart, or something about art and integration with art. We've got Scott Gustafson coming and a couple of other wonderful illustrators, and we're going to be integrating that. So I do want to give a shout out, because if you know me, that Young Readers Conference, it's my passion also. I was not a reader as a child, and anything to help a child learn to read for a lifetime, yeah, that's what I'm all about.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. Oh, there's one more comment, not a question, but I missed you at graduation in December, Dr. Walizer. So.
Oh, I did. I had to miss that graduation in December, which I really hated. My grandson has a birthday at about that time, and it was, it's always a hard choice, but I don't see him very often. So, and hopefully he gets to come the 4th of July. But I don't know with the way the travel restrictions and everything, we'll see. So, but thank you. And I did miss you too. I hate that.
All right, so thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Walizer. Brief plug for next week's guest. We will have the voice of the Tigers, Gerard Welbrock, joining us. Listening, what does a sportscaster do when there are no sports? That will be part of what we were talking about next week with him. So, and he's always a hoot. Another lifelong Tiger, so we look forward to that. So again, thank you, Dr. Walizer. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and hope you all have a great day and a wonderful 4th of July weekend.
Thank you. It's good to see you all.